Now I'll present Ms. Jennifer McKay, a friend of Kashmir, an academician from Australia. She has been following Kashmir for long. She has a long experience on Kashmir and has written a lot on Kashmir, and also she's the master in disaster management. But today she spoke on the UN Kashmir Report and right to self-determination. Ms. McKay, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can just correct the Chairman, I'm from Australia.
Australia.
No,
Australia. Australia.
No offence to Austria.
Okay.
It's now 9 months since the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights report on Kashmir, I'm too short, was released. The report raised 14 grave human rights violations, including enforced disappearances, torture, mass rapes, lack of access to justice, administrative detentions, arbitrary arrests and detentions, including children, use of pellet guns, which have blinded thousands of Kashmiris, including children as young as 18 months old, military courts impeding access to justice, excessive use of force, impunity for prosecution for the Indian Armed Forces, and many other issues. The report made 17 recommendations to be addressed by the government of India. Yet India remains unmoved. Not one of these 17 recommendations has been implemented. The human rights violations continue, and if anything, they have increased. Nor have the member states of the UN pushed for the report's recommendations to the Human Rights Council, which stated, consider the findings of this report, including the possible establishment of a commission of inquiry to conduct a comprehensive, independent international investigation of human rights violations in Kashmir. The report itself was a turning point for Kashmiris, being the first time the UN has really raised the human rights violations committed by India in Kashmir. Perhaps for just a moment in time, it gave them hope that there would be action. Since the release of the report, their plight has grabbed more international attention than in previous years. The international media has run more stories than usual about what's happening there and the human rights abuses. The New York Times, The Guardian, Washington Post, BBC, Al Jazeera, Reuters, Associated Press and others have all done in-depth stories on the plight of Kashmiris. Yet still, India remains unmoved. The all-party parliamentary Kashmir Group of the UK Parliament, comprising 70 parliamentarians from the House of Commons and also from the House of Lords, issued its own report condemning the Indian government for human rights violations in Kashmir, the excessive use of force against Kashmiris, and refusing access to independent observers, including from Britain, to Indian-occupied Kashmir, to monitor the situation. And still, India remains unmoved. For the first time since 2007, the Kashmir issue was discussed in the European Parliament. When on 19th February... That's okay. The Subcommittee on Human Rights hosted an official exchange of views on the situation in Kashmir. Ms. Christine Chong, one of the authors of the UN Kashmir Report, was invited to address the gathering. In her comments, she highlighted the dire human rights situation and reiterated the report's recommendation for establishing a commission of inquiry. An overwhelming majority of the European Parliament members attending this forum supported the recommendations of the Kashmir Report and called for their full implementation. They further called on India to immediately cease its atrocities in Indian-occupied Kashmir. They also highlighted the need for a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir issue through dialogue between Pakistan and India, and with full participation of the Kashmiri people. Yet still, as in everything else, India has remained totally unmoved. In her annual report, the Human Rights High Commissioner, Ms. Michelle Bachelet, warned India that its diverse policies could undermine economic growth, saying that the narrow political agendas were marginalising vulnerable people in an already unequal society. She said that the UN is receiving reports that indicate increasing harassment and targeting of minorities, in particular Muslims and other historically disadvantaged and marginalised groups such as the Dalits. This is certainly the case for Muslims in Kashmir. In recent times, the targeting of civilians has increased and the death toll is rising. India portrays Kashmir as a bilateral dispute between Pakistan and India, and that other countries should not interfere. This totally disregards the legitimate right of the Kashmiris to be heard as a party to this dispute, or to stand up for their rights, including the right to self-determination. Point Q of the recommendations to the Government of India in the Kashmir Report states that India should fully respect the right of self-determination of the people of Kashmir as protected under international law. However, this, as have other recommendations in the report, has been totally ignored by the Government of India. The support of the UN Human Rights Council and its member states, each of its member states, are vital to future peace and harmony in Kashmir and the region. Dialogue between all parties must continue to focus on resolution and finding the pathways to peace. The United Nations must stand firm on holding an independent international inquiry on the human rights violations in Kashmir and its implementation in full, so the people may obtain at least some sense of justice, and in parallel do more to bring about the conditions to facilitate a long overdue plebiscite for the people of Kashmir so that they may determine their future and fully exercise their rights. Has the report and the subsequent attention from foreign parliamentary groups and the international media had any impact? It seems not. India remains totally unmoved by world opinion. Meantime, the human rights abuses continue unabated, and freedom and self-determination remain a distant dream for Kashmiris. Keeping the situation in Kashmir alive in the court of public opinion globally and in diplomacy is imperative to one day achieving a settlement and peace for Kashmir. Thank you.